Welcome, everybody, to another live stream here on the Ray Law International channel. Thank you for joining us. Let me see. Yes, we are making sure that we are connected. Everyone, I'm going to ask my team to make sure that they can hear me clearly. Go ahead, um, Jen. Yep, we are all good. Welcome, everyone. My name is Anthony Ray. I am the host of the live stream today, and this is our April live stream. I apologize, we're a little bit later. I'll explain why in just a moment, why we're doing it. Usually we do it sort of near about the second or third Wednesday of each month, but this time we had to do it at the end of the month because I was out of the country. And we're going to dive into our topics today. Now, there's a lot to cover. And while I was going to keep it to about 15 minutes, remember, this time is really not just for me to tell you about the policies and what to expect and how to proceed, but also to answer any questions that you may have. So, in the comment section, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are listening to us from, please go ahead and put your questions in there. Also, we want to hear where you are calling from. Whether you're in the US, abroad, put in there your questions or concerns that you see in the past week or in the past weeks. I know that we are here at the 100 days for our presidency, but that doesn't mean that the changes and the impact of these policy changes will end. They're just going to continue. So, first, before we get started, I just want to make a quick plug. Go ahead and throw that photo up there. Um, this past April, actually in April, we're almost done with April. I was in Japan on a business trip, and I had the opportunity to attend the World Expo in Osaka, Japan. I just want to reiterate for those who are interested or don't even know about the World Expo going on, it is going on until October of this year, so you have plenty of time. I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you have the opportunity that you go ahead and if you're in Japan or are planning to go to Japan, that you stop by and attend the World Expo. I only had, because of her busy schedule, I was only able to attend one day, which is definitely not enough time. I would definitely recommend 4 to 5 days. That way you go to all the pavilions. There's so much great information and experiences that you can have here at the World Expo. It is amazing. So please, please, if you have time, make sure that you attend or get over to Osaka and attend that World Expo. It doesn't happen every year. This is sort of, for many of us, it's once in a lifetime opportunity. So make sure you do that. Ray Law International was there. As you can see, I enjoy photography on the side, so I was able to get a lot of wonderful photos and had a lot of great experiences at the World Expo 2025 in Osaka, Japan. So check that out. Just want to make that plug. And for those who have been there, or are planning on going, please put that in the chat. Let us know your experience. And would love to share and dialogue and share our experience or my experience as well while I was at the World Expo. Now, want to get started. Some of the current news that we want to start off with. There's 3 things before we jump into our main topic. The main thing that is of interest is, one, the House is currently considering a budget reconciliation bill that gives the Trump administration up to $200 billion in funding to conduct mass deportations without due process, while imposing astronomical fees and restricting work permits. Now, not sure why our administration is anti-immigration. We need immigrants to fuel our economy, and you'll see later on there are many, many articles that speak to that. But in addition, these are the 3 points that this current bill, if passed, would impact. First, it would restrict employment authorization documents, also called EADs, to a 6-month duration, forcing workers to undergo frequent renewals. Now, that's good for immigration attorneys. It's insane for the workers because for these renewals, you can file up to 6 months. But if you only get it for 6 months, you can see that you're filing this 2 times a year. And this is great for the immigration attorney business, not so much for the clients and employers. Also, this creates instability for the workers and the US businesses that rely on them. So we are just creating more work without any purpose. There's no reason to limit these to 6 months. It's insane. It doesn't make sense. Also, the processing times on these work permits sometimes is 4 to 5 months. Some even exceed the 6 months. So by the time you even get it approved, you have to file all over again. It's just more administrative work. It's not efficient. It doesn't make much sense. The second point of this bill, it imposes excessively high application fees and eliminates fee waivers for vulnerable populations, including asylum seekers and unaccompanied minors. Why this administration wants to refuse people that are fleeing their countries to help them out, why this administration wants to attack unaccompanied minor children, I do not know, but that is exactly what is happening here. Up until now, the Trump administration has essentially bypassed Congress. Here is the bill where Congress is actually solidifying and putting these things into place. The third and final thing, one other thing, on the excessively high application fees. Immigration is not only for the rich, okay? And that's what the administration is steering our immigration policies and focus to. Um, the top 1% cannot run the whole economy. You need the rest of the 99% in order to run and fuel and do all the other things in an economy. It does not make economic or logical sense to reserve immigration benefits to the top 1% or a select few or the rich. Third, the bill would redirect significant portions of the fees away from immigration agencies such as USCIS, CBP, and others responsible for processing applications. Instead, they would be funneling them into the Department of Treasury, meaning right into the federal government's bank account. As a result, the adjudicating agencies remain underfunded, worsening case backlog and reducing efficiencies in the legal immigration system that we just talked about. If you don't put money into the system to fuel and administer these policies, it's just going to cause backlog. So there's a lot of common sense policies or actions that are not being followed here, and it's definitely going to cause a lot of issues. Now, I want to take a minute to go over some of the top headlines. I already know we're 10 minutes in. Again, if you have questions, this is the time to ask those questions. Maybe you've been impacted by some of these policies, or you've heard of things on the internet. We're here to help clear that up, give you some realistic guidance in making decisions for both you, your business, and for your family. So we want to go over multiple headlines that we have experienced in the past week. And this will give us an idea of what's going on in our immigration policy. So if any of these spark an interest or you have questions, please put your questions in the chat. The first one is from NPR. It states Trump wants to bypass immigration courts. Experts warn it's a slippery slope. The next one from The Guardian. Mothers deported by Trump deny chance to transfer custody of children, lawyers say. The next one from Politico. And this is nice because it's over a wide variety of news media. You choose whichever one you like. The New York Times. Trump signs three executive orders addressing the immigration and policing, excuse me, immigration and policing. We just talked about some of those right now, okay, when we talked earlier. Next, CNN. Trump backs down in legal fight over canceling international students' status records for now. Now, you'll find that a lot of these executive orders and policies are being challenged in court. So even if you hear about them, you need to pay attention to what's going on in the court system because many of these policies are being halted until the court system has a chance to review the legality of these policies. So just because you see a headline, don't jump, don't fear, don't make business decisions. See how the court decisions and, you know, certain restraining orders or prohibitions on certain policies are going to stop a lot of these. The next one is from the Washington Times. Trump opponents see kids as Achilles' heel of immigration crackdown. The next, the Wall Street Journal. We're going to try to go through these a little bit quicker. The Wall Street Journal. Trump signs order requiring nationwide list of sanctuary cities and states. A lot of people are going to be asking, well, what do I expect next? This is the next thing. The Trump administration is seeking to get cities and municipalities to coordinate with them because even though the DHS has the largest budget for enforcement, they still don't have enough people or resources to deport 11 or 14 million people. Now, one of the key things, arrest of illegal immigrants are up. What is not going up is the actual deportations. I think I did the calculations. If there's about 14 million illegal immigrants in the US, the Trump administration would have to deport around 2,300 per day for the next 10 years. That's how big and overwhelming the actual challenge is. So while the current administration is catching a lot of people and probably putting them in tents and incarcerating them, which of course costs money and is more for the taxpayer, there is not a reciprocal increase or increase in the rate of actual deportations, okay? And remember, to make some dent in the issue, you're going to have to deport, not detain or put in the process. You actually have to deport 2,300 per day for the next 10 years. Try to wrap your mind around that. The next article is from Axios. The Trump officials defend deportations involving U.S. citizen children. The next one is from CNN. 3 children who are U.S. citizens, including one with cancer, deported with their mothers, lawyers and advocacy groups say. The next one, the Washington Post. Trump administration focuses on immigration record ahead of 100-day mark. Next, Reuters. Trump touts immigration crackdown despite concerns about due process, which I'll talk in about a moment. And then the next one, the Washington Post again. The U.S. is not Venezuela, but Trump is closing the distance. Okay, that's one from the Washington Post. The next one is Huffington Post or HuffPost. Democrats say ICE took Florida mom from baby, unlawfully deported her to Cuba. A lot of these small ones you may not have heard of in the big media or in the newspapers. These are smaller ones. Next, CNN, ICE, first of its kind operation with local enforcement, law enforcement. Remember, we talked about local enforcement before, leads to nearly 800 immigrant arrests in Florida. Now, remember, we're going to see what happens in Florida as these immigrants are arrested. They're not working, they're not paying into Social Security, and they're not, these people are being taken from restaurants, construction, and farm workers. We're going to see a direct impact on those various industries as they enforce or incarcerate more of these people. Remember, that's 800 just arrested. Now the government's going to have to house them, feed them, and provide all the normal humane benefits provided to those who are in process. And remember, they should be allowed due process. And our last one on the list is from the Boston Globe. It's all bullying amid immigration crackdown. Massachusetts businesses worry about their workers. This is exactly what arresting 800 people will do. They're working, businesses are worried about people who can do the work. And if we don't have enough people in the US to work, we're going to have a lot of issues, like many other countries are having, where the population is declining. So those are the headlines. That's some of the current events that happened in the past week, and it's a lot. Next, one of the main concerns that people had mentioned, and I want to address in just a few more minutes before we get to our main topics, is the following. I'm asked almost every day what changes we're seeing and can expect in U.S. immigration policy. While there are many technical updates, as we talked about, and shifting enforcement policies, as we've seen before, as previously in our discussion, I believe the most significant and troubling change is the steady erosion of due process within our legal system, particularly in the realm of immigration law. Due process is not just a legal concept. It is a cornerstone of American democracy, enshrined in both the Fifth and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. The Due Process Clause guarantees that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without legal procedures. The Fifth Amendment protects individuals from federal overreach, while the 14th Amendment extends that protection to actions taken by state governments. In the context of immigration, due process ensures that individuals, regardless of their immigration status, has the right to a fair hearing, access to legal counsel, and a meaningful opportunity to present their case. However, we are witnessing a disturbing trend. The increasing use of expedited removal procedures, reduced access to immigration courts, and the policies that undermine judicial oversight. These changes risk turning the immigration system into an arbitrary process, which decisions are made without transparency, without consistency, and without accountability. This erosion of due process doesn't just impact immigrants. It has a broader consequence for all of us. Without a strong legal foundation that respects due process, it becomes far more difficult for individuals and businesses to plan for the future, whether that means making hiring decisions, investing in international talent, or building a life with a spouse or fiancé from another country. And history has shown us this. Once due process protections are weakened for one group, it becomes easier to chip away at those protections for others, including U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. The line between us and them grows thinner, and the rule of law becomes less about justice and more about power. We should deeply, and you should, I would hope, as you listen to this, be concerned about this shift. Upholding due process is not a partisan issue. It really is an American issue, and the strength of our legal system depends on our willingness to defend it, especially when it is most under threat. So I encourage you all, if you're concerned about your due process, whether you're a U.S. citizen, green card holder or not, if you're concerned about the rule of law, please, we'll put a link in our next newsletter. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send that out to you. You can talk to your congressman, express your concern, and hope, make a difference. There's a lot of protest throughout the U.S., but you can also communicate directly to your political appointed person in your jurisdiction. Now, for today, we want to cover three things real quick. First, the increase in scrutiny and delays in visa processing. Two, uncertainty around immigration policy changes, which we highlighted recently, and just now, and then workforce mobility and remote worker compliance. So the first is increased scrutiny and delays in visa processing. Again, if you have questions, go ahead, throw those in the chat, or you can email us later. Our phone number is there. You can even call us right now. Our staff is standing by. We can schedule you for a one-on-one consultation to see how we can specifically help your situation. We help many people every week understand the immigration policies and changes that are impacting their business and their families, and we're here for you as well. So the first one, increased scrutiny and delays in visas processing. Now, processing times for work visas such as H-1Bs, Ls, and Os remain unpredictable due to the stricter review standards and resource constraints by the USCIS and the consulates. Two things here. One, thankfully, at least for our clients, we have not seen those delays. Now, our firm, we put a lot more work than maybe the average law firm puts in to make sure that we avoid requests for evidence and that our cases are solid and get approved. So we're getting our cases approved without our fees. That doesn't mean that other cases are not. It all depends on how your immigration attorney puts your case together. We take extra care, we put extra effort into that. Cheaper is definitely not better when you're investing in your employment future and your family's future. So please, please, please consider that. We're not seeing delays. However, this could change as we move into the year. Okay, so right now, H-1Bs 4 to 5 months, Ls are comparable. You can always utilize premium processing, which is $2,805. So there's ways to make that process shorter as well. Now, why does this matter? Businesses face hiring delays. I think we're going to, depending on what happens with the tariffs, hopefully we don't end up in a recession, but if the economy stays strong and moves forward, these policies or delays in the visa processing will implement hiring delays by HR, contract interruptions, and of course, what all businesses fear is uncertainty in the workforce and planning. The tariffs and other immigration policies, the greatest problem is, of course, due process, but more importantly, is the uncertainty. Businesses and individuals cannot plan for the future if they don't know what that future is going to look like, or if there's going to be major changes, or if they're going to lose their job, or if there's going to be an executive order taking their student status away. All of these matter. So companies are building in longer lead times for visa filings and investing in immigration compliance tools. I have also encouraged our clients to look at backups. If you're in E-visa category, make sure you have your L visas as a backup in case there is a spat or dispute about the treaty that's in place. Or, if the administration just revokes all the treaties and now we don't have E-visas anymore, we're left with L visas. We don't know what is expected. We'll talk about Project 2025 and where they're adding, what their next steps are in the next section. But companies and family members, plan ahead. It is not going to get better. So we always encourage people, if you're going to do your visa work, get it done now. While right now the administration is totally focused on arresting and illegal people and deportations, they really haven't focused too much on family-based and employment-based. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. Act now. So that's number one. Number two, uncertainty around immigration policy changes, which we are seeing on a daily basis, weekly basis, and which we just talked about. If you go through all the articles that we just went through, you can just see the uncertainty in all the policy changes. The upcoming, the main thing here is the Project 2025. I was doing some preparation and reading for this. Some of the things that I wanted to highlight was um, is the you saw it with the 200 billion increase in budget. The current administration through DHS doesn't have enough people to enforce. That's why they're enlisting local law enforcement. Now realize if local law enforcement across the country is working on deporting 11 million people, they're not able to do their regular job, right? So how are they supposed to protect us in other areas? So that's not their job. That's the federal government's job, and they really shouldn't enlist the states in order to do their bidding and their work. But even with that, they just don't have enough individuals, capacity, and the resources. And at the end of the day, us, the taxpayers, are paying for this. To what end? The problem we have is there is no plan in order to put into a realistic, good immigration policy or program. So um, they're doing a lot, but Project 2025 doesn't have solutions for immigration. It's just keep everybody out who's not a US citizen or lawful permanent resident. I don't think that's a good solution or a plan for the future, especially in an international market and world that we have today. The next thing that Project 2025 that could be coming is the continue taking away of immigration status from legal people. Now, we've already seen temporary protective status be revoked. They're looking at taking away T visa categories. That's where individuals are helping law enforcement catch the bad guys and criminals. Doesn't make sense why you would do away with that visa category. They're also looking to take away U visas. So if you were a victim of a crime and you qualify for U visas, file right away. They're trying to take that away. Anything that helps people, it seems that we're trying to get rid of, which doesn't make any sense. If it doesn't help rich, wealthy people, then it just doesn't matter, it seems to be in the policy. So as the Project 2025 and the current administration cracks down, these are some of the next steps. Increased enforcement, where they're going to put them, I don't know. Who's going to pay for it? You and I who pay taxes. And then another aspect of this that people didn't realize is a lot of people who are here illegally, they still pay taxes, but they don't, and that goes into Social Security. So if you take 800 people and you remove them and they're not working and not paying into Social Security, that's less money going to the government, and that's less money for our Social Security aid. Even though it's supposed to run out in 10 years, it'll just make it even worse for us. So it would make sense if there's not going to be any money, stop taking Social Security out of my paycheck. But I'll leave that for other people to decide. But these are certain changes, so we can see stricter enforcement, more policies to keep people out of the U.S. who are here legal, and unfortunately, these are sort of the next steps. T visas, U visas, increased enforcement by local governments. So over the next 3 months, the next quarter, let's see how they progress and whether Congress steps up and stops this, or the court in the legal actions and lawsuits say that these policies are unconstitutional, meaning they're violating due process in other areas, or are illegal. And let's see, these policies changes, how are they impacting OPT and STEM? Even though Trump reinstated that for now, you know, it still puts students at a disadvantage. All international students, F1 students, should be very concerned about these policy changes and when their status is going to be taken away from them without any reason, without due process, without logic. So you have to stay on top of this. Fortunately, this is a stressful situation for students and H-1B individuals. We'll see what happens next year with H-1Bs and whatever policy changes they propose. And employers are planning, they're lobbying However, this administration isn't even listening to the Supreme Court, so why would they listen to businesses? And in addition, it seems that many of these businesses are just acquiescing to the administration instead of, doing what is right for business, what is right for the everyday person. And more importantly, when we have these restrictive immigration policies, that means skilled base individuals, talented people can't come to the US and they're going to go other places, such as Canada, Europe, or China, in order to use their skills. So it's going to be a huge talent drain, and it will definitely impact the US's competitiveness. Now, finally, let's see, any questions? Nope. Okay, we're going to continue workforce mobility and remote work compliance. This is going to be very key. You're going to want to make sure, a lot of businesses are doing this right now, but whether they're working remote or hybrid, you have to make sure that you're in compliance with your state law and federal law. Foreign employees can legally work in the US. Those people who are doing remote, let's say they're nomads, you're going to need to have a proper work visa in the US. But those going abroad, you can definitely do that. That's probably going to grow because of the restriction of immigration policies. That means that's less revenue for the US because people are working abroad. Work location changes can trigger compliance issues with prevailing wages, LCAs, and visa eligibility. Being mindful, if there are changes, let us know, the immigration attorney, so we can either do an amendment to your H-1B, L, or E, or get you into the right category to make sure you maintain status. As the government continues to crack down on individuals, such as doing the registration for all foreign nationals, you're going to want to make sure that you stay in compliance. HR and legal teams are closely tracking work locations, which is great, adjusting internal policies, make sure those policies are up to date and implemented to avoid inadvertent violations. Now, are there going to be enough people to follow up and check on these? We don't know, because all the efforts and resources are put into deporting 14 million people. All right, guys. Um, One last thing. Again, I want to encourage you, feel free to reach out to us, especially employers who are in need of guidance on which visa category is best for various individuals, multinational companies moving their employees around the world. Reach out to us. Very, very important that you get the guidance and guidance you need. Changes are happening so quickly, weekly. You need to stay on top of things. Finally, I just want to point out, if things get hostile enough, talent won't stick around. They'll head to Canada, Europe, or China, fueling new powerhouses while the US blows its lead in the global talent race. I'll leave you with that thought. We'll see you in May, as we'll hopefully have more positive immigration news to talk about. Maybe something positive will come out in the next month, but we're here to support you. So reach out to us, Anthony Ray, here at Ray Law International. Until next time, stay educated, stay informed, and stay on the right immigration path. See ya. And thank you for joining us.